Hello, pre-algebra, and welcome back to our next lesson. This is lesson 8.6 on inequalities. So recall that an inequality is a mathematical sentence that compares quantities that are not equal. Inequalities contain the symbols, you can see those there, right? Less than, greater than, less than or equal to, and greater than or equal to. The inequality W is greater than 200 represents the number of water slides in Wisconsin Dells. It just tells us that the number of water slides is greater than 200 in the Wisconsin Dells. Okay, so that's how we translate sentences into these inequality expressions of inequality. Now, this is probably the slide that's going to be the most helpful to you, and you may want to jot this in your notes, right, or somewhere, because these are the common verbal phrases and corresponding mathematical inequalities. So you can see that the less than sign, right, you're usually going to see that in a sentence, in a verbal phrase. It may say something like, this number is less than that number, or John has fewer than this, right, than 10 apples, something like that. For the greater than sign, right, greater than, the most common phrase, but that can also be is more than or exceeds, right? So the number of apples John has exceeds the number of apples Mr. Jones has, something like that. Right, for the less than or equal to sign, obviously that is the phrase, is less than or equal to, but it could also be, sometimes it's written as, is no more than, or is at most, right? Because it doesn't go past that number. And then the same for the greater than, right? We could also encounter it as is no less than, or is at least, right? It's the smallest number, and that number could be greater, right? So Mr. Jones has at least 2 children, right? That could mean that he has 2, 3, 4, etc. But he doesn't have 1 or 0 or negative children, which is kind of hard to have. So that's how that works. Again, you may want to refer to this as you work through your problems. So let's just practice doing a couple of these. Most of what the work we're going to do here on this lesson is we're going to write out an inequality based on a phrase or a verbal phrase that we're given. And then our next little section is just graphing them on a number line. This should be pretty straightforward, but it can be a little tricky because we have to remember exactly what those symbols mean. So let's start with our first example. DVD costs more than $15. So we'll use D for DVD. And it costs more than $15. So it is greater than 15. And that is all we have to write. That is the inequality for that verbal phrase. A dog weighs less than 50 pounds. We're going to use D again for dog. Just because DVD and dog both start with D, so don't get confused. It's not because this has to be D. But the dog weighs less than, so that would be dog is less than 50. Okay, and our last one, Amelia sold more than 40 magazines. So we'll use A actually, let's use M for magazine. So the number of magazines she sold more than 40, so greater than 40. And again, if we go back to that table, we can see more than, less than, more than. Those are helpful phrases for us to help remember how to write these inequalities. So what happens if we have maybe a slightly more complicated verbal phrase, like a full sentence? So let's take a look at these. You must be at least 18 years old to vote, right? So let's use A for age. And what symbol are we going to use? So if we think this through, can you be 18 years old to vote? And if the answer is yes, then that means that you can be 18. So we would write, right? Or you could be 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, etc. So this is going to be that at least, right? If we look back at that table, right? At least is going to be greater than, first of all, any number that is greater than 18 is going to work. But also 18 works, so it can be equal to 18, and that's why we use this sign. So this really is a mix of the equal sign and the greater than sign. So A is greater than or equal to 18, because any number will work including 18. In our previous example, right, when we said something like Amelia sold at least 40 magazines, 40 is not a correct answer. A cannot equal 40. A has to be more than 40. It has to be 41, 42, 43, 44. But here, when it says at least, that's what the importance of this greater or equal to symbol. All right, let's look at our next one. A student must have at least 10 hours of instructor-assisted driving time to pass the course. So let's, since it's hours, we're going to use H for hours. Does 10 work? Can a student have 10 hours? And the answer is yes. So we're going to have an equal sign, or part of our equal sign there. And this is at least, so it has to be 10 or greater. So it can be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And so we're going to use that symbol again. Okay. So that is how we do those, and hopefully that makes sense. I think we're probably okay with this, and if not, of course, send me a question via email. We may, from time to time, be asked to figure out if a value makes the inequality true or false. So inequalities are variables are open sentences. It means we don't know. When the variable's there, we don't know exactly if it's a true statement or not. But when we're given a number and we plug that number in, we can determine if the inequality is true or false. So let's practice that. So here we are given an inequality, 2t plus 8 is greater than 7. So we're just going to plug in. They tell us what t could be, -1. So if t is -1, is our inequality 2t plus 8 is greater than 7 correct? Is that a true statement or a false statement? So let's just plug it in. So 2 times -1 plus 8 greater than 7. Okay, so let's do our multiplication. 2 times -1 gives us -2 plus 8 greater than 7. And -2 plus 8 is 6 greater than 7. So is this a true statement or a false statement? Is 6 greater than 7? And of course the answer, it is not. So this is a false inequality, right? Or sentence. So false sentence. Okay, that's false. That number would have to be 8, 9, 10, 11 in order for it to be true. 8 is greater than 7, but 6 is not. All right, let's try the next one. So p minus 42 is less than or equal to -2. So let's plug that in. 40 minus 42 is less than or equal to -2. So let's do our operation here. This is a math operation. We're going to have 40 minus 42. That's going to leave us with -2 is greater than or equal to -2. Again, the meaning of this is, right, -2 is not less than -2. That part is false. But because we have two components here, we have the less than component, and we also have the equal component. There's two options here. If we also look at -2 equals -2, that is true. So that means that this statement as a whole is true because -2 is equal to -2. And that is because we have this sign here that says it can be either, right? It can either be equal to -2 or it has to be less than -2. Why is this a big deal, right? Or how is another way we can understand this? Well, we can use a number line to help us understand the differences here. And we can graph inequalities on a number line. When we do this, this helps us visualize the values that make the inequality and make it true or false. We use an open circle. This is very important. Oops, I want a different color here. We use an open circle to indicate that the number is not included, right? And we use that for greater than or less than. We then use a closed circle. And let me go back and draw what we mean by an open circle. An open circle is almost always drawn like this. Oh my screen just moved on me and that made a terrible circle. Right, an open circle is literally an open circle versus a closed circle is a circle that is filled in. Okay. And we use a closed circle to indicate that the number is included. When we place that circle on our number line, a closed circle means we are including that number. An open circle means we are excluding that number. All right, so let's try this. A equals -6. First, let me put some numbers on here. I was lazy and I didn't put the numbers on my little number line here. So we're going to make this 0. And then my screen moved, so let's just put a couple more dashes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So I'm going to do our first one in purple. I'm just going to circle in purple. So A is greater than 6. So the first thing we need to do is we need to find 6 on our number line. And unfortunately, I put 6 way out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 6. So how do we indicate this? Well, we have a greater than sign, not greater than or equal to, but greater than sign. So we're going to use an open circle, and then we're going to draw an arrow indicating that any number greater than 6 works, but 6 itself does not work. It has to be greater than 6. Or our other one here, let's use red for this one, x is less than or equal to -1. So let's find our -1. That's going to be here. Okay, and in this case, we're going to use a closed circle. So we're going to go ahead and close it, fill it in, and then draw an arrow, because any number less than -1, and of course less than is going to be to our left, any of those numbers work, including 1, because it's equal to or less than 1. So any of those work. All right. And that's it. That's all we are doing in this lesson. All right, check out your homework and get your homework done today. Lesson 8.6. And we will see you next time. Have a great day.